Welcome Fly Tires, Tying Tuesday. Appreciate you clicking on the video. Today we're going to tie the Biot Midge. This is a great little midge. It's a fairly simple pattern overall. Some of the materials can be a little tricky to work with, but really makes an elegant and awesome finished fly when we're all done. So a great wintertime midge, a great summertime midge. Midges around all the time. Gotta have the midges. Go ahead and spin this up. All right, so we got a size 16 in the vise today, so it's a little big unless you're kind of getting after that super midge in the springtime, those larger midges. But for the most part, you want to tie this a little bit smaller, just a little bit easier to see here and display. The hook that we're working with is an Umpqua hook. This is a cool competition hook. It's the U625BLBN, so it's a competition hook. It's known as a competition nymph hook, but it's a barbless curved hook, and it is 1x fine. 1x short and a 3x wide gape, so fairly unique and fits the bill pretty well for me for smaller dry flies. It's not an overly gauged hook as far as nymph hooks go. It's still somewhat stout, so when you got some bigger fish, it's going to hold up well to those bigger fish. Nice straight eye profile, just a good overall hook, nice built hook. And then we're going to start our thread. This is our Veevus 10-aught in black, one of my favorite threads to use overall, definitely a go-to for me. And then we're going to go and get our first material ready. So I'm going to work back about to the midway point here, and that's when I'll tie in the body material. And we're using some turkey biots. So these are the black turkey biots from Wapsi. Definitely a really quality material. What we want to do is select one of those straight from the quill here. And so what we want to do is go ahead and clip just one of those out. And we're going to tie it in by the tip here. And there's two different ways that you can tie this in. There's a concave to the material. And if you want a smooth body, for me, I tie the concave outward because when I wrap it in, I'm folding it over and then wrapping it down. For this fly, I want a little bit of texture to it, so I'm going to tie the concave downwards on the shank. And then that way when I tie it or begin to wrap it forward, it'll be flipped over, and that concave allows for a little bit of texture from the material. So we'll secure it in, and then nice, smooth, even thread wraps forward to lay that material on top of. And we'll go up and about a third of the way back from the hook eye, leaving ourselves room for the hackle and wing on this fly. Once we have it secured, we can half hitch and bring our thread onto our bobbin cradle and out of the way. And then if you have the turkey biots, they're a little bit longer than the goose biots. You can also use goose biots for this. But with the turkey biots, I feel most of the time I don't need a hackle plier. With a goose biot, I definitely do. And then if you ever get to the point where you're just sort of frustrated with it, a hackle plier can make a big difference. I'm just going to create touching wraps forward, holding it in place as I go so it doesn't come loose on me. Sort of hand over hand. You could also use your rotary. I'm just going to take that forward to where our thread's waiting for us here. Maybe give it one extra wrap. And then we can go ahead and capture that body material down. So you see how it sort of flares out, kind of breaks free and flares out, adds a little bit of texture to the fly when you tie it in with the concave down so that that happens. And then we'll capture it with our thread here with a couple of wraps before I release anything. And then we can go over it and just make sure it's all locked down and clip out the rest of that biot. And then from there, I'm going to add just a little tiny dubbing ball to it. We'll clean this up slightly here. Add just a little small dubbing ball. Right where that material finishes, and all that's going to do is give myself a prop. So I have the Semperfly Kapok, I think is how you say that. I could be wrong. You just need a tiny little bit of it. Again, just a little prop to keep our next material sort of staying upright in a wing position. So a few wraps to create that ball, and then we're going to use another Biot, thus the Biot Midge name. And this you could use, again, turkey or goose. This one's a little bit more flexible because we're really only using that back, larger sort of blunt end of it. And we're just going to position that right on top, full length of the body, coming out the back. And we can secure it on with some locking wraps. And sneak up in front of it as well, and then we clip out that excess material. Now I'm going to work on this portion of the fly. I just want to even this out as best I can before I go to tie in the next material. Whenever you're working with Hackle, the smoother your transition of your thread bases, the easier it is to keep those wraps nice and tight for your Hackle. If you have too much of a slope, it's going to want to slide on you. So definitely something to keep in mind at this point. And then we're going to use another awesome saddle from Whiting Farms. This is my Grizzly saddle in the midge grade. So you can see a bunch of really nice, long, very fine fibers on this bad boy. One of my favorite Hackles that I have. And we're just going to go through and select the right gauge. I have one here, but just to show you kind of how that goes, you can use your hook and sort of measure the length of those barbels before you clip it off of your cape to find that right length. And basically we want to extend to about the same length of the gape. This is an extra wide gape, so on this fly you might downsize it a little bit, but that's actually perfect right there. So we're just going to prepare this feather for tie-in and clip off the butt section, preen back all those barbels and even strip them away, and that gives you a nice clean stem to tie in there. It's a little long for the fly that I got, but trim it off and now we're ready to go. And I'm just going to capture that right by that Biot wing, couple of wraps over top. I always like to sneak behind and sort of X-wrap it if I can without getting those barbels there. And that just gives me confidence that that's not going to break free. Also helps to keep it perpendicular to the fly overall. And we can clip out our excess material there. Again, just clean everything up. My transition's getting to be a little aggressive here, but I think we'll be okay. So I'll half hitch behind the eye, leaving ourselves a little bit of room for finishing. And then we can palmer our Hackle right on forward. So one wrap right there tight to the Biot. We'll go 2, 3, maybe sneak one more in there. And then we can bring our thread back to the Hackle. So we're going to walk back and get right up next to that Hackle before I go behind it, and then up against it, capturing it a couple times, and then back in front. And we can cut out the rest of that. Save this bad boy for later. Still tons of good Hackle. Be able to tie a few more flies with that. And then we can whip finish this good old midge dry. I really like the concept of this Biot Midge. I've always liked Biot bodies, and I just think it's a really neat idea to use a white Biot for a wing. Obviously on the Prince Nymph, white Biots work so well on that aspect. This is just a great idea in my mind. You can see half of that is a little translucent, the other bit's nice and white, and I think that adds to the appeal of it. I tied it in a little long, so I'm just going to come in and snip her off there. And we got ourselves a great little Biot Midge. It's a great one to have in your box. It's a fairly low riding midge. That Hackle is going to stay nice and dry, while that Biot might sort of sink through into that surface film, which is a great presentation when you got those midge hatches going on a lot of times. Trout are coming up and taking those bugs that are stuck, trying to break free that can't quite do it. It's a nice easy meal for them. So this is a great fly to fit that bill. Thanks so much for watching, clicking on our video today. We appreciate it. Check out the description for the material list down below. All the stuff's available at avidmax.com. Appreciate you watching. Have a great day and have a fun time.